Hello, Internet. Welcome back to another edition of Eric's Corner with a word to the not so wise. Take two because I did this episode before and my microphone cut out, so I got to redo it, but that's okay because practice makes perfect, especially when you practice perfectly. We're going to get right into it, and I'm going to go in on the transgender movement. Now, why would I do this? Well, because your demand for social justice and validation has been out of hand for quite a while. You keep demanding what you call rights, which basically has just become a catch-all for all of society needs to cater to me, and we're all pretty sick of it. I mean, you want state-sponsored cosmetic surgeries. Basically, you claim that they are life-saving. It saves your life if you'll kill yourself if you don't get it, which is kind of funny because after you get these surgeries, you're still just as likely to commit suicide, which for the love of God, please don't. Give you some human compassion here. Do not hurt yourself like that. I genuinely don't want you to. But you are kind of being dead weight and a big burden on society here. You are literally a bunch of NPCs, non-playable characters in your own unfunctional deadweight society. Anybody that doesn't support you or bow down to every one of your whims is a transphobe. Well, no, I'm kind of disgusted by your movement. You want rights and you want all these things. Okay, cool, that's fine. And society has been very gracious and very nice and giving you these special privileges, which is what you actually want, until all of a sudden you had to come to our schools and dance and read to our kids. I mean, that's just cringe. I mean, come on. Nobody thinks this isn't a wolf in sheep's clothing. Your group is overwhelmingly more likely to molest children, have STDs. You live a sexually deviant lifestyle, and none of us are really on board with it. You have these great victim worshippers, and they really only care about themselves. Again, I'm going to circle back to Riley Gaines, my very first episode. Riley, I've been keeping an eye on what you've had going on, and you're making some great progress and headway, and that's fantastic. Well, she got mobbed and attacked outside in the hallway after she said that she had a problem with this dude being in her locker room. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what woman is okay with these dudes being in their locker room? I mean, okay, if you're a girl and you're comfortable with this, that's fine, but not everybody has to be comfortable with this. And why are you violently attacking her? Well, these people, you feel validated by worshiping the victim because you feel like a victim yourself. So therefore, if you go to bat for somebody else who says they're a victim, it gives you some sort of social traction. And God forbid you should be called a bigot because you did anything but bow down to them. Oh, you're a transphobe. Wow, hurt me. That's so horrible. I mean, look at your group of people. I mean, come on. You're pretty overweight, so you're never going to be in a locker room because you're not going to go to a gym. Sexual predators that might be in said locker room want pretty girls, not short, green-haired, chubby girls that hide in plain sight because you're ick. Nobody's procreating with you guys. I mean, nobody wants a pansexual or a non-binary, not a woman or whatever you identify as. So you're not going to have daughters that are going to fall victim to sexual predators. And if you're going to sit here and accuse me of judging, like, oh, really? Okay. I'm white. What do you like to call us white males? White or male? Come on, what is it? Starts with a P? White privileged, male privileged. Okay. Males are like 90% of all industrial severe accidents and deaths, 90% of military deaths. I have to be drafted or sign up for a draft, which I enlisted under my own accord and went and served in the military. The list goes on of things that kill men way more than women or you non-binary people. We're 90% less likely to take our kids in a custody battle. 90% more likely to have post-traumatic stress disorder, and the list just absolutely goes on. And before you say, well, it's not 90%, I'm generalizing. Notice I said 90% like 7 times in a row. It's around there. Our rate is absurdly higher than that of a woman, and even higher than that of your beta male who has nothing better to do with their time than protest. And coming from a guy like me, okay, I grew up working on commercial fishing boats in Alaska. I operated heavy equipment. I left the state to clear bomb ranges. I worked on a drilling rig. I joined the military to go into the hardest military training on the planet, which I did well in, didn't succeed in, but I did well in. I've launched fighter jets off the deck of an aircraft carrier. I got out. I went and hauled pots in the Bering Sea. I've commercial fished and gill netted in Bristol Bay. I'm working construction now, so I'm doing a lot of your dangerous jobs. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, it's such a privilege. I'm doing all this, dragging some of you along as dead society's dead weight. I mean, how is this great for me? So before you act like I'm just being so horrible to you, maybe you need to act accordingly and see that maybe you're not really that great. All of society is kind of sick of your shit. You got to go to school and read to our children and dance for them. If somebody with gender dysphoria wanted to go in as a guest speaker, dress professionally, and go into health class and be like, hey, if you have this condition, here's how to deal with it, here's help you can get, that'd be fine. You're teaching it as sociology or not biology, but as a psychology issue, psychological issue, because that's what it is. And I mean, like I said, none of these victim worshipers care about you. And you know who else doesn't give a shit about you? The government. They have a very deep, sinister plot going on here. They see you guys as a way to depopulate the planet. I mean, sex changes of prepubescent children, really? Anybody involved in that, any doctor, anybody in the OR, any chief of medicine, anybody who pays to castrate children needs to go to prison. That is just beyond repulsive. I don't understand how anybody could possibly support that, regardless of what side of the social or political spectrum that you're on. And, it was said with this LGBTQ movement, like, oh, they're trying to turn the whole world gay. Well, no, that wasn't the movement, and it was hijacked by the trans community and by the government. Because gay people, you can't procreate. I mean, you can, but artificially, you're not going to do it as a couple. And you're unless you're bisexual or whatever, you're not going to do it accidentally, which interests the government because they're trying to depopulate us. And there are very powerful people that are trying to remove you as the carbon footprint. They're trying to get rid of you. I promise you, that's what's going on. They're trying to weaken men, toxic masculinity. Like, well, I mean, men need to be there to raise their children, if not to teach them things. I need to set an example for my sons as far as like, hey, son, here's your genetic makeup. Here's what's the genetic attributes that should be your strengths that are available to you. Mine are mechanicking. So if my sons want to watch me mechanic and get interested in it, great. If they want to do other things, that's fine. But when you don't have your genetic father available, usually, they can't see where their strengths and weaknesses are. And it's just absolutely fantastic and amazing to me how this group has just spun themselves this cocoon of political correctness where, again, you don't want rights. You want to be above criticism. I mean, take this as constructive criticism. But I promise you, this whole movement that you're doing is just absolutely repulsive. And that gets to the third thing. The corporations, who also don't give a flying shit about you. Budweiser, who is not the first, the fifth, the 50th, the 100th one to do this woke bullshit. they're like the several hundredth, and they took a shot at it, and their stock has just tumbled. Now, why do you ask all these corporations that keep siding with the woke movement? I have a theory, and I would really like to see a reporter like John Stossel. I really hope that this gets to you, because I really trust you as a journalist. I'm not a journalist. I'm just a guy here screaming at his phone and posting it on the internet. To investigate this, I think is what the corporate higher ups are doing. I overwhelmingly sure, because follow the money trail, they're liquidating their stock and then shorting it. Shorting stock is basically buying stock, betting that it will go down. I don't know where the money comes from when it does go down. It's coming from somewhere, probably from the minimum wage employees of what they should make. The CEO of Bud Light said, "We did nothing wrong and we still lost." And what do you mean you still lost? What do you mean did nothing wrong? You should have known there'd be backlash here. And Disney, they've been for months and months and months, just one live action show after another, keep doing this untraditional screenplays and unfitting, unrelating actresses. Well, if they shorted the stock, then yeah, just bring the whole thing down. You're gonna, they're not making their corporation money. They're not making their shareholders money. They don't give a shit. They give a shit about themselves, not about you or your movement. I really think that has to be what's going on. South Park did a spoof on the transgender athletes show, and it was hilarious. They took a guy with the likeness of Macho Man Randy Savage, and he's just destroying the girls, and they're, South Park is transphobic. They need to be canceled. They've been ripping on everything ruthlessly for 25 years. I mean, 2.5 decades, and it gets to you, and now you're offended. I just do not know what to tell you. And part of the problem with this group is you need validation. You need my approval. Yeah, you do. You're not trying to convince me. You're trying to convince yourselves that you're actually a woman. I mean, if that's what you feel, then fine. But once you convince me, then you've convinced yourself. And that's never going to happen. You're not going to convince me. I mean, if I paint my face black and put on a black afro, and I'm wearing blackface, and that's horribly discriminating against the black community, well, I mean, how is putting high heels, lipstick, and a dress on not wearing woman face? I don't understand how dudes who say they're women are more of a woman than a woman. And absolutely, they get asked, like, what is a woman? Well, only a woman can tell you that. Well, you said you're a woman, so what is that? Well, I don't speak on behalf of all women. And they just go in circles. I mean, Matt Walsh has just absolutely done an amazing job of just destroying your whole logic. And he's not doing it out of bigotry. He put out a speech. He said, well, if you're saying circles are squares and squares are circles, like, and there's a whole movement trying to change the definition of things. I mean, you just, like I said, you need me to validate your position, and you need all of society to bend over backwards and cater to you. Well, society smells blood in the water, and it is not going to be good for you, because you've bought and sold your own oppression. You know why? Because when you come in to a job interview and you put, I'm a they, whatever pronouns, they're going to throw your application right in the garbage. You know why? Because you're a social liability. You're too high a risk of lawsuits. The whole office now has to tiptoe around you. When they stop talking to you, you're going to call them phobic. It's like, no, they don't want to offend you because they don't want to get fired. And it's absolutely freaking absurd. So that's your own fault. That's on you. You've the kids, since you started, insisting on going to the schools, the kids with gender dysphoria has gone up 4,000%. That's 40 children to every one that there used to be. And I'm telling you right now, you ever tell my sons that they're anything but boys, it ain't going to be good for you. That is a fair warning. This is a warning shot across the bow. You do not ever tell my sons that, which, I mean, you know, the average person from the internet isn't going to ever meet me or my kids, which is fine. But it's just, I'm beside myself as to how you guys have just become the apex victim who are beyond criticism. But here I am criticizing you. I think that about wraps it up. I've pretty much covered all my notes, I think. Hopefully this one turned out a little bit better than the last one. You have questions, leave them for me in the comments. If you're still watching, thanks for watching, and smash that subscribe button. The more people I get to watch, the better my videos will get, and I can have a little bit better set. So thanks again. Hope to see you next time.